Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Frank McNeil, and I'm coming to you live from, and this is Talk of the Town with Frank McNeil. And man, has this been a week. First and foremost, the legislature went overtime. The House got into a big row over there. I'm sure you read a little bit about it, but they got the budget passed, and man, but it seems that Speaker Chris Welch has a few problems. His staff is suing him, saying that he denied them to become a part of the union. So that's going to be an issue that we are going to be talking about later on down the road. But I wanted to bring you on today and talk just a little bit about the verdict against the former president, Donald Trump. And, there's been a lot of discussion and talk about African Americans and voting for Donald Trump. So I wanted to sort of, I thought I went to the barber shop today and yesterday, my barber, I'm going to talk about my barber for just a minute. He didn't show up yesterday. I couldn't get him. But today, but while I was there yesterday, I had a chance to talk to a number of the occupants in the barber shop who, and we were talking about should or should they not vote for Trump. And so we had quite a heated discussion there for a few minutes, which I enjoyed quite a bit, as you know. And but the thing about it is that I'm disappointed is some of the young men that were in the barbershop not as aware and not as up to date on our former president and how he has not been, should I say, in my opinion, a good president for the United States of America and specifically Black people. And when I started sort of rolling off a few things about what he had done and what he hadn't done, things seemed to change. But I'm disappointed because I guess, as my son tells me, Dad, everyone doesn't follow this stuff like you do. And so I've got to get used to people who look at these things a little bit differently than I do. But what it said to me is that if Joe Biden is going to win this race, he's going to have to do a huge educational component out there because it is quite a few African Americans who just don't understand what has happened in the last. And then today, I had to talk to the young guys in the barbershop, and and one of the things I said, well, do you guys know that Trump wants to suspend the Constitution? And they sort of, a little bleary eyed, but said, do you understand what that means? And so I, of course, broke it down. Suspension of the Constitution means suspension of your rights. So, your First Amendment rights, your Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable search and seizure, all of those rights are suspended. So, we in essence have given the president the authority to do whatever he wants to do, and you have no recourse. And so I don't know. I don't know why it is that a number of our young people don't understand, and some of our older people actually don't understand that this is not good. And when you hear the newscasters talking about democracy, what the former president would like to have is total authority over all issues regarding the United States government. And he has some of the foundations with a lot of money behind him preparing documents so that he can do these kinds of things. And we are so lost sometimes on the fact of that we don't understand the impact of some of the policies that the former president wants to implement in his new office, if he should come back to office. And so I'm just here tonight, sort of lamenting. And the other thing that I had to do yesterday was try to explain the recent court case in New York where he was found guilty on 34 counts. And one of the young men asked me that it really wasn't a crime for him to pay off Stormy Daniels. I said that wasn't the crime he was being prosecuted for. It wasn't the Stormy Daniels payoff. It was the fact that he paid off Stormy Daniels and he lied and paid money so that the story that she was telling, and it was for to salvage his reputation before the election in 2016 so that this information wouldn't get out after the Hollywood tape. He didn't want that information out about Stormy Daniels. So he and Michael Cohen hatched a plot that this is how they were going to get around it and pay her off. And David Peck would catch and kill this bad story. And so he falsified records that he submitted and saying it wasn't that it had nothing to do with the campaign. So, and now they want to, Jim Jordan in Congress wants to bring Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA, to DC to grill him because as you go back about 6, 7 months, they were saying that Alvin Bragg couldn't win this case, that this case was terrible. Uh, Mark Pomeranz, his former assistant, was very critical of Alvin Bragg, and so Alvin Bragg did his work. Took him almost a year, but he filed a case. Now, people are upset. Oh, the case should have never been brought. It went through the legal process. It went before the grand jury. They indicted him. So Alvin Bragg prosecuted the case. Manhattan DA prosecuted the case, and 12 individuals said that Donald Trump was guilty. Now, of course, he is claiming that it was a rigged case and Joe Biden rigged the case. Nah, we know better. You and I know better. This was a case that nobody, even Alan Dershowitz, the high-priced Harvard lawyer who's been around and has his nose in so many people's business, but he defended Trump on the impeachment. And so he's been defending Trump since then because a lot of his liberal friends up in Martha's Vineyard, where he lives, stopped inviting him to parties. So he has nowhere to go but to the MAGA crowd now. And so he continues to pop off. He and Jonathan Turley seems to be the two top that they get to say things about Alvin Bragg. This case is not going to go anywhere. He and Jonathan Turley, he's still one of the professors, I think, at George Washington University. And they keep talking about how this case is this. And so now they've been proven wrong. So now Alvin Bragg won the case. Donald Trump, of course, is going to appeal. And then the other thing that I think our people have to recognize, Donald Trump has resources that you don't have and has had resources all of his life. And what he's been able to do is to delay. Justice delayed is justice denied. And he's been able to deny justice for a long time. But this time it caught up with him. So when we start assessing as African American people who this guy is and what he stands for, and the best thing, and then I started talking to them about the pandemic and coronavirus. This is, as I went back, it hit me that how badly he handled that crisis. And first and foremost, he lied. He lied to the American people. He lied to us. He lied about the impact this was going to have. He lied about the virus and what he knew about it. I mean, well, and this happened in 2020. And so I asked a number of the individuals in the barbershop, how many of you, how many of you had a friend, relative, distant relative, somebody you knew that died of COVID? And everybody in the barbershop had either a relative or a close friend that died of COVID. Now, we know now that had the president been more forthcoming about the disease, that we probably could have headed it off a little bit better and become a little bit more prepared. And we could have masked up a little bit earlier. We could have told people to social distance a little bit earlier. Everything could have been done a little bit earlier. And what was interesting today, I sort of took a look at some of the things the president said, and that's really frightening. So going back to January 20th was the first case in the United States, and in January 22nd, the president said it's totally under control. January 30th, the World Health Organization said it's a public emergency. President Trump came back again on January 30th saying it's under control. We only got 5 cases and they are all recuperating. Then January 31st, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services said we're under a U.S. health emergency. And then January 31st, they started travel restrictions. So as a observer, I'm saying something's not right. And so then he says it goes away with heat, and in April it's going to just go away when the heat comes in April, and then that's in February the 10th, and February the 24th he said it was under control again. He did this interview with Bob Woodward, and he said, yeah, God, I tell you, it's not funny because so many people died. So many people who didn't have to die died from coronavirus because they were not prepared and they didn't understand, didn't have knowledge of how this thing. It was an airborne virus, and he told Bob Woodward, "This is really bad stuff, Bob. It's really bad, and it's airborne." But he didn't tell the American people that. And so a lot of people operated under the assumption that everything was going to be fine. And come warm weather, is going to go away. He compared it to the flu, influenza. And Dr. Fauci was telling him, no, it's different. It's a little bit worse, a lot worse. And as the numbers kept piling up, and then it was 4 million cases in the United States. It was the World Health Organization declared it was a pandemic. Then the United States Health and Human Services declared it was a pandemic. Then we were running more cases than any other country in the world at one point. All because of our president, former president, who didn't want you to know, who was running for re-election in 2020, of course, and he wanted to be the savior. And it didn't work out too well for him. But the fact is, he talked about, the bleach and the ultraviolet light that you could use and the hydrochloroquine. None of these things were remedies for the coronavirus. And he, on public TV, had people using bleach, had people trying to use lights, had people taking hydrochloroquine. And sorry about that. I had somebody's trying to reach me. But this is the kind of individual that we had as president, and he wants to go back, and he's getting a lot of support. He's getting a lot of support from a lot of wealthy individuals, and some of the wealthy individuals happen to be Jewish. And because president has taken a strong stand against the demonstrations on campus about the Palestinian issue and the Gaza Strip, and I think protests are going to be what they are, protests, and sometimes they're not pretty. Been involved in some that were not pretty, and I am not anti-Semitic. I don't support anti-Semitism, and for those people who are harming people, who are threatening people, they should be addressed and they should be arrested for those kinds of crimes. However, you don't have to like people. Doesn't mean you're anti-Semitic, but you don't have to like the process of what's going on over in the Gaza Strip and how Israel is handling that situation. But it is a time for us to rally around the United States of America because we're getting drawn into some things all over the world, and we just want to stay the course of what we're doing. And I think Joe Biden, while he's not moved as quickly as I would like him to move, we don't want to get wrapped up into everybody's problems. We're giving aid to Ukraine, we're giving aid to Israel, and at the same time, we're trying to get Israel to stop killing innocent people in those areas. Aiding them is one thing, and cautioning them not to kill innocent people. Hopefully, now that we've gotten that to some degree, they're talking again. Hopefully, we can get to a resolution very soon. But getting back to the former president and getting back to the members of Congress, the members of the Senate, who are not happy with the legal process that everyone has had to follow. Everyone has had to, if you've had any legal issues, you've dealt with it. And people come out on the other side and, hey, pretty good system. And now, when Donald Trump wins, and he's won some cases, the legal system is fine. But when he's on the losing end, it's the judge is conflicted, everybody's conflicted. And I've never seen a man who has just so many grievances, and everybody is against him. Everybody is mistreating him. Here's a multimillionaire, billionaire that's being mistreated. Now, the system has treated him fairly well, I think. Judge Cannon down in Florida has just done absolutely a fantastic job of keeping Donald Trump out of court. In Georgia, he's not been brought to justice in Georgia because they created a nightmare about Fannie Willis and who she was sleeping with. And now we have a case before the U.S. Supreme Court regarding the former president, whether he has unlimited immunity. Unlimited immunity. And so here we are trying to get through this so that we can have a resolution prior to the election. Doesn't seem like he wants to have a resolution. So anyway, we're going to take a break right here and take a little commercial and come back with you in a few minutes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my show today here is being brought to you by Sagaman Watches and my good friend Brian Sue. And you can go down and buy a watch or have your watch repaired and check him out. And also, we're being brought to you by Boyd's New Generation Restaurant, where you can go get some of the great soul food that we have here in Springfield. And Picture Perfect Solutions, my good man Stevie, and get your portraits done, your prom pictures, your graduation pictures, your wedding pictures, right here. So we're going to take this little break here and be back with you in just a moment. And welcome back to Frank McNeil and Talk of the Town. And we're going to try to get you out of here. I think I've talked enough for one day. I want to congratulate all of the high school students here in Springfield, Sangamon County who are graduating this weekend. My nephew, Little B, as we call him, is graduating this weekend, and another nephew, G, up in Massachusetts, is graduating this weekend. So, congratulations to these young men. And yes, I'll have to have a gift for you somewhere. And for all the kids at Southeast Lanphier and Springfield High, we're starting construction on your schools. Lanphier's almost done. Springfield and Southeast started new construction this week. So you're going to have some new facilities to get into. But the point of it is you got to get your work done, got to pay attention, and let's do the best we can as you go forward in this world. Put forth your best effort so that you can come back and be proud of where you're from and talk and have Springfield be proud of you after you've gone out and made a name for yourself after you go to college and graduate. And everybody's not going to go to college. And that's one thing I want to talk about briefly here. Every kid is not cut out to go to college. Every kid doesn't have the money, the resources, and there are many other things that go into whether or not a kid can be successful. A lot of kids can be successful at college, don't have the wherewithal, don't have the resources. And some kids who do have the resources probably are not prepared to be there and don't have the mindset. So we have to look at alternatives for our young people, and we have to sort of nurture them along until they get to a point where as they say, the light comes on and they realize that this is a real world out here and that they have to be prepared and that there's no free lunch. They're going to have to learn to work, to live in society. Everybody has to have a resource. You got to have a place to live. You got to eat. You got to clothe yourself. You got to have extracurricular activities if you should have the money to do those. And if you have children, you got to maintain and take care of your children. So as you venture off into the world, if you graduate from high school, just remember your parents have tried to prepare you for the world you're going to live in, and you have to do something for yourself now. Now it's about self preparation. Your mom and dad, if you go to college, they're not going to be there for you to say, hey, man, it's time to get up. It's time to go to class. You're going to have to do that on your own. They're not going to be there to tell you when you come home and you get on your P station, PlayStation, PS2, whatever it is. Hey, man, you need to stop. You got to get your work done. You got to get your homework done. They're not going to be there. You're going to have to make that hard decision on your own to put it down and get it done. They're not going to be there to tell you, don't spend all your money in one weekend on a big bash. You got to learn to meet your money out a little bit so that you can have a little bit of money over the course of the week, and you can get to the next week and you can go back and have that money and say, hey, I've really learned to manage my money. All of these things are about becoming an adult, about getting prepared to go into the real world and being able to live comfortably, live within your means. And I think sometimes we have to get kids to understand that it doesn't always work out. The first job doesn't always work out. Sometimes you got conflicts within in your jobs. You got to learn how to work through those things, managing expectations. All of those things got to be learned. And these are skills you acquire over time. So I just want to congratulate again the graduates of high school, but also the graduates of the local universities around here, UIS, University of Illinois Springfield, and then there's Blackburn, and then there's Illinois State, and all of the other schools around here. You're going to be coming into the workforce, and or some of you are going to go on for higher education. But again, the same things apply. Growing up, becoming an adult, accepting responsibility, and going out and making your families and yourself proud. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to conclude the talk of the town, but I look forward to seeing you next week. Hopefully, I'll have my Senator Doris Turner, and if I can get her to come on next week, we can talk about her success in the Illinois General Assembly this year, because I think she did a great job, and I'm looking forward to talking to her and bringing some of the information that she has that will be beneficial to you as residents out there. And a lot of times, you guys don't read the paper or do all the things. And hopefully, this little segment of information can get to you. Thank you and have a good evening from Talk of the Town.